right, so in the second half we were talking about time zones and moving through time zones in Canada. So here we have the time zones listed. So our NST, that is our Newfoundland Standard Time. AST is our Atlantic Standard Time. EST is the one we are in. That's our Eastern Standard Time. The CST is our Central Standard Time. M is our Mountain Standard Time. Over here. Mountain Standard Time. And PST is our Pacific Standard Time. All right. UTC I'm not too worried about. UTC is your universal time, so that's where it is at sort of 0 hours or when the new day begins. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm only focused about worrying about Canada, so don't worry about the UTC. So those are our time zones that we have across Canada. So what I'll do is I'll give you an idea of how the time shift works. So for example, let's start off with, let's say it's just at the end of lunch in Newfoundland. So let's say in Newfoundland it is 12:30 p.m. So we just finished having lunch. If you're in the Atlantic provinces, Atlantic Standard Time, it is actually right on 12 o'clock. It would be noon there, 12 p.m. Okay. So there's a half-hour difference between Newfoundland Standard Time and Atlantic Standard Time. Now as we move across the country, it is an hour interval. So Eastern Standard Time. In Newfoundland, they just finished having lunch. Atlantic Standard Time, they are in the middle of lunch. And in Eastern Standard Time, we're still waiting for lunch to come around. It's 11 o'clock. If you lived in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, it's actually 10 a.m. Oops, I was putting p.m. Better fix that on my Eastern one. Okay, a.m. So it's getting earlier as you go. So again, finish lunch in Newfoundland Standard Time, halfway through lunch in Atlantic Standard Time. Eastern, it's 11 o'clock, so we're still waiting for lunch. If I was in Saskatchewan or Manitoba, it'd be 10, so we're just finishing first period. If you're in Mountain Standard Time, you would just be starting classes. All right, so if you were in Alberta, you would just be starting classes. And Pacific Standard Time, you're probably just cleaning up breakfast dishes. It's 8 a.m. So we have a 4.5 hour variance across our country. And that's because of the time zones. If we didn't have these time zones, then if we had Newfoundland at 12:30 p.m. and British Columbia at 12:30 p.m., that would mean that in BC, the sun just came up a little bit, but it's lunchtime. We have these time zones so that everyone can experience the hours of light during the work time, and then you have darkness when you sleep. So that's why we have those time zones. So it is important to keep in mind as you call people or move across the country, if you're wondering why your friend, you wake up in Eastern Standard Time, let's say you wake up at 7 and you're texting someone out in BC, why does your friend not respond to your text straight away? Well, if it's 7 a.m. in Eastern Standard Time, so I'll just do this in red up on the picture. So if it's 7 there, 6, 5, your friend is likely not too impressed that the cell phone's going off at 4 in the morning with some text message about how you're doing today. So keep that in mind as we go through the time zones. So the activity I have here is similar to the one you're going to work on in the homework. You're going to want to have this map available so that you can help yourself out. So just to clarify here, St. John's, that's actually St. John's, Newfoundland. Since there are 2 St. John's for the geographers in the class. All right. So what I want to do is just run down the table. We're going to go down each column. So for example, in St. John's, Newfoundland, if it's 6:30, and again, I'm at military time, so I'm going to work with military time. Hopefully you've got that practiced. Halifax is in Atlantic Standard Time, so I'm going to put AST to help you out with that. So it's a half hour earlier, so it's actually 0600 in Halifax. Toronto is in our Eastern Standard Time zone, and it's an hour earlier, so it's 0500, so you guys are still snoozing away. Winnipeg is in Manitoba. It's in your Central Standard Time, hour earlier, 0400. Now Saskatoon's in Saskatchewan. Hopefully everyone has their geography down. Saskatchewan is actually in the same time zone as Winnipeg, so it's 0400 there. Calgary, it's Calgary, Alberta. They run on Mountain Standard Time, and Mountain Standard Time would be an hour earlier again, so it's 3 a.m. or 0300. And then Vancouver is located in BC, and that's our Pacific Standard Time, so it's an hour earlier, so it's 2 a.m. Okay. So there you go. I always kind of wished I lived in BC for Sundays when I'm watching football, because I could watch my 1 o'clock football games in BC while I'm having breakfast. That'd be ideal world for me, and then I still have the afternoon to go golfing and stuff. But living in Eastern Standard Time is not the end of the world. Okay, what happens if Toronto? In the second example, Toronto is at 1400 hours, so 2 o'clock in the afternoon. What's it in Halifax? Now you got to be careful, because as you go to Halifax is going to be a little bit later, so it's actually 1500 hours in Halifax, and it's 1530 in St. John's, Newfoundland. Now as we head west, they still haven't gotten to 1400 hours, and they would be, the Winnipeg and Saskatoon are an hour behind us. Calgary is 2 hours behind us, and BC is another hour behind them. So there we go. All right. What happens if we are in Saskatoon? Why wouldn't you want to go to Saskatoon? So Saskatoon is at 20 or 2,000 hours. Okay, so that is 8 o'clock in the evening. So in Winnipeg, it's going to be the same time, okay, because they share the same time zone. As we head east, so we're going to go east first, it's actually later as we go east. So it's actually 9 o'clock in Toronto. In Halifax, it's going to be 10 o'clock. And in Newfoundland, it's going to be 10:30. However, if I go the other way, Saskatoon, if I go to Calgary, it's actually going to be 1900 hours, so it's a little bit earlier. And Vancouver is 1800. Okay, so as we move east, it gets later. If you're moving west, it's getting earlier. So Vancouver, my last example here, 1500, so 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So Vancouver's just getting out of school at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. What about Calgary? Well, as we move across, Calgary is actually at 1600 hours. They're at 4 o'clock. So they're probably at home, kicking back and relaxing. Saskatoon and Winnipeg are at 1700. So they're at 5 o'clock. They're just sitting down for supper. In Toronto, we're cleaning up our supper dishes. And then you go to Halifax, which would be 1900 hours, 7 o'clock. They are kind of getting into the evening routine. And finally at Newfoundland, they're probably just starting to get the bedtime snacks ready for the small ones. So there you go. There's your time zones. It's going to take a little bit of practice maneuvering back and forth as you go through the time zones. The examples, though, will give you a chance to practice and sort of give you that realization that if you have a friend that's out west or a friend out east, why they may not be responding to your calls or texts or emails immediately when you send them. So this allows you to finish up that first section of homework. You can get a little bit more practice with military time and also working with the time zones, which is very important here in Canada when we have such a large country. All right, good luck.